What percentage of your home inspections are buyers
Sure.
getting home inspection versus sellers getting home inspections?
Sellers getting home inspections is relatively low in our industry in the Northern Virginia area, the DMV area, and in general, it's not really part of the culture here so much as other states like North Carolina, and almost every single home gets a pre-inspection. What we're seeing here, I run probably around 7% of my clients are sellers. On the other side of that, I do have several really large real estate groups that we pre-inspect every single one of their homes they take to market. I take that out of consideration when I say those numbers, but by far in general, like the general public, they tend not to get the home inspection pre-listing.
Do you think more sellers should get pre-inspections?
I think it's the ideal way to go, to be honest with you. I wish the industry would pivot to a pre-listing inspection. That way you know exactly what you're getting into. So if you go under contract and let's just say there's a big crack in a foundation or an active leak, I find that my buyer clients, they get hesitant about that house. So we can get those things corrected prior to hitting market. You go into contract, there's nothing for a buyer to have any hiccup on. They're not going to feel a certain way if something is there. You know what I mean? Being preventative there, taking care of things in advance, I think is the best way to go when it comes to doing a home inspection. If you think about it, like if you go to buy, just say a used car, you can pull up a Carfax on it and see that car's history. That's what this should be looked at like. So we can do a home inspection, post-home inspection. If your clients come back through and actually make corrections, we can come back, revise the report, and then kind of show a clean bill of health to that.
What's the cost for a seller, like a range for a seller? Obviously, it depends on how big the house is.
Sure.
But just give me a range of how much it would cost.
So if it's a single family home, you're on the smaller side, you're going to be around $500 up to about $1,200 for, around a 5,000 square foot home or so. And then, we base everything off square footage. That's very competitive. So we're right in that mid range with the rest of the industry. And I think that's fair, between $500 and $1,200. If you live in an exceptionally large home, considerably more, but at the same time, it's pretty affordable because last thing you want to do is go under contract with a big defect lingering in the background where your buyers will pull out.
I think a lot of sellers, they're nervous, right?
Sure.
About getting an inspection. But what I tell them is like, nervousness comes when you don't know.
Yeah.
Right? So if you do know, and we can have a plan to attack it and a plan to get through it, even if it's just disclosure.
Right.
Even if it's like, hey, this is what's going on. I may not have the funds, the wherewithal, or the energy to do it, but this is where it is. A home that backs back out onto the market is going to be more costly than what it's going to cost you to get to that point.
Of course. I mean, it takes time, effort, resources, money to put it back on the market. Even if you can't afford to make those corrections yourself, I feel like if you just put it to market going, hey, you know what? HVAC is not working. We know about it. It's not in our budget, but the rest of the home is beautiful and you can either take it or leave it. That way you're not getting under contract and having buyers back out later.
Buyers always think that things are more expensive than they are.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
So it actually works out, right? Because that HVAC might cost 9, 10 grand.
Yeah.
In the buyer's mind, they're going online and it's 15,000,
Right.
16,000.
Yeah.
They're going online, it's 30,000. So you can even get in front of those conversations like, hey, I can't fix it, but I got an estimate for this to be fixed.
Yeah, of course.
This is what it's going to cost. I'm in front of it. It shows that you're more responsible and you're not trying to hide anything.
It's funny that you bring up cost estimates because one of the first things I ever do with my clients is to ask them, what are your intentions for this home? Intend on putting money into it? If so, what does your budget look like? That way I can kind of advise them the best way. I hate being labeled an inspector. I'd much rather my industry be called home advisors. I would like to advise them the best way possible because it doesn't matter if you're selling or buying. My job, I can help get you dialed in financially and tell you what corrections you need to make that home like acceptable to anybody and everybody, make it safe and make it livable and functional. And then anybody can move into that home. As far as costs go, there are those large companies that are out there. I mean, the big companies that are advertised on the radio, they will charge you $20,000+ for an HVAC system. I had a set of clients that got ripped off about 6 weeks ago. They called me and they were like, hey, we put in this HVAC system. It was a heat pump, $24,000, a single heat pump unit. And I'm sure they got a Nest system and an air scrubber and a UV light, which is all basically snake oil to me. But staying in contact with home inspectors and realtors, we typically have the best network of contractors that are very honest, right? So I think you would probably agree with that.
I agree. Most of the time as a buyer, you're going in getting an inspection, right? So
Yeah.
you're trying to find out things that give
Right.
you a competitive advantage, right? But as a seller, this makes me feel real vulnerable,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah, of course.
you walk into my house and you like, yo, this is wrong, that's wrong, and like I think mentally I was sitting over here, I had to get out of my way, like because this is gonna be for the better good, the greater good. But I'm like, damn man, like this, like he nitpicking my house.
I'm tearing it apart. I didn't realize how emotional home inspectors was until I sold my home. And then when I sold my first home, owning a home inspection company, and I got that inspector's report, it was emotional. Like I was upset. I was mad at this guy. Even though like it was all very factual, I'm like, who's this guy think he is? Like, you're picking apart. It's an emotional time. Home inspections, I've made so many clients cry. Home inspections are extremely emotional. I overheard you just talking about your family life and watching your kids grow and telling your wife how much you love her in this very room. And now there's going to be someone with nothing good to say about this house. My job is to be the bearer in bad news. Right. So I'm not telling you how great it was to see your kids grow up in this home. I'm telling you that you got a broken door over there. You know what I mean? When people receive inspection reports, it's a big mind game. It really, really is. And I think you know that as well as I do at this point in the industry. Sellers feel their home is perfect, and the buyer feels that their home is falling apart. So it's our job to communicate them and actually set these people's expectations.
Wrote in the book, 50 things your real estate agent should tell you but probably won't, that smart sellers should have a home inspection once a year, even when they're living in the house.
Agreed. Yeah.
To just pick up small things like deferred maintenance things, because now that I think about it, we're going to have a list. But had I not stayed on top of all these things, the list would have been longer. It would have been more costly. I'm not going to be able to net the money that we really would like to net from this house.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about like why you think people who live in a house, they're not planning on selling no time soon, should potentially think about getting an inspection every year or every other year to figure out what things are going on.
So that's probably the best question to ask me right now, because I'm basically I'm like the cobbler with the broken shoes right now. So we bought our house 6 years ago, full remodel on it, interior, exterior. I knew about 3 years ago that I need to do some caulking and painting on the exterior of my home. And I was like, oh, I'll get to it. I know I have the skills to do that. And I never did. 3 years later, this spring, I had to have my contractor there, and I spent $8,000 replacing. It's a lot cheaper to maintain than it is to repair things, right? So when you get into a house, and there's a lot of small things that a lot of people don't understand, servicing HVAC systems, servicing roofs, taking care of the gutters in like a really good way. I can't tell you the amount of times we find water making its way into the attic just from gutters. So just having somebody come out, and it doesn't need to be a full-blown inspection, right? Like we do what's known as a home maintenance seminar. So we'll come out, and we don't even deliver a report. We walk our clients through the house, just advising them how they need to take care of it. So just taking care of your home, number one, it's going to be cheaper. It's going to give you a better home to live in. And then when you go to sell it, it's going to be in better condition than your neighbors down the street.
I also tell our clients, and I wrote about it in the book, is that you should be spending 1% of your home's value every year on maintenance or renovations.
Yeah.
Right. Even when you don't think there's something you can fix, every year there's something you can fix that if you spend that money wisely it's going to be a good investment somewhere down the line.
Yeah. I mean, you can never go wrong investing in your home, and then you can never go wrong just taking care of your home. Right. It's the repairs that cost so much more money. Like a tube of caulking is $9. Because I neglected to spend $9, I just had to spend $8,000. Like, and it is that drastic. It can be something that simple. I like to say homes are like, it's like being in a relationship, right? You need to listen to it, care for it, nurture it. Every home has its own individual personality. And if you don't listen to it and take care of it, it's going to break up with you and cost you a lot of money.